Welcome to today's Explainer. Let's jump right into this because we're looking at a deeply moving, honestly incredible story out of a small town in Montana called Cedar Ridge. Now, Cedar Ridge is one of those places where life just moves a little slower, right? Everyone knows everyone, but within this quiet town, a legendary story unfolded. It's a story the locals still call the last gift. It is this fascinating, beautiful look at loyalty, unspoken bonds, and the extraordinary things that can happen when we pay close attention to those who can't speak a single word. Imagine this for a second. What if your absolute best friend knew his time was running out, way before you did? And what if, instead of asking you for help or for comfort, he spent his final days trying to help you? Well, that's exactly the core of our explainer today. We're going to explore the unforgettable timeline of an old dog named Cooper, whose final goodbye completely changed one man's life forever. So this whole mystery starts at exactly 6:42 on a quiet Sunday morning. An old golden retriever named Cooper scratched gently at his owner's bedroom door. Now, what's remarkable here, the really crazy part, is that for 13 whole years, Cooper had never done that before, not once. His owner, a man named James Walker, just smiled. He assumed his old dog simply wanted one last early morning walk. But as you'll see, that walk was going to leave behind something that no amount of money could ever replace. Part 1. 13 years of loyalty and the story behind the bond. For over a decade in Cedar Ridge, if you looked outside at sunrise, you'd see the exact same picture. James holding a cup of coffee and Cooper walking proudly right beside him. It was a flawless daily routine. But James's journey to get to that peaceful point, it wasn't an easy one. He actually started out as a strong, fearless firefighter, totally dedicating his life to helping others. But then, a devastating winter warehouse fire severely injured his back. Doctors had to deliver the crushing news that his career was just over. Within a matter of months, he lost his job, his confidence, and honestly, almost all of his hope. Which brings us to the day he adopted Cooper. So how did this iconic duo actually meet? It all tracks back to James's younger sister. When James was at his absolute lowest, she dragged him to a local animal shelter. He told her point blank he didn't need another problem in his life, but she just looked at him and said, "You need a reason to smile." Inside this really quiet kennel, a tiny golden retriever puppy sat entirely alone. No barking, no jumping, he just stared at James. When James knelt down, the puppy walked forward, placed one tiny paw on his hand, and just gently wagged his tail. James whispered, "I guess we're going home together." Moving on to part 2, the unspoken bond and how he was more than just a dog. Over the next 10 years, Cooper literally became James's shadow. They were thick as thieves. They spent their days fishing by the lake, camping up in the mountains, watching football every single Sunday. Cooper was way more than just a pet. He was his constant, steady presence as James slowly rebuilt his life. The neighbors in Cedar Ridge would always joke that Cooper must understand English because of how perfectly in sync he was with James. But James would just laugh and say, "Nope, I think he understands hearts." Whenever James felt lonely or just had a rough day, Cooper somehow just knew. He'd rest his head on James's knee without making a single sound, just offering that undemanding, silent comfort. But then, things start to shift. As Cooper turned 13, his muzzle turned white, his steps slowed down, and something really strange started happening. Every evening, instead of sleeping by the fireplace like he always did, Cooper started this weird new routine. He would walk quietly up into the dusty attic, stay up there for several minutes, and then come back to James. It was almost as if he was checking on something hidden. James even went up there to investigate, but he found nothing but old boxes and forgotten memories. And yet, Cooper kept returning to that attic, day after day. Section 3, the final walk on a cold October morning. When James reached for the leash that morning, Cooper's legs actually trembled as he stood up. James smiled weakly, told him they'd take it really slow, and Cooper just looked into his eyes and wagged his tail. Neither of them knew it, but this painfully slow journey was going to be their final walk together. They walked for nearly an hour, reaching their favorite wooden bench by the quiet lake. They sat together in the stillness. But then, completely unexpectedly, Cooper didn't just rest. He stood back up, very slowly walked toward an old oak tree near the water, stopped halfway, looked back at James, and barked just once. It wasn't loud, it was just enough to say, "Come." So James follows him over to the tree. Cooper gently scratches the dirt with his paw. When James kneels down and brushes away the dry autumn leaves, he unearths something completely unexpected. It's a small, rusted metal box he had never seen before. Inside, it was like a time capsule. He found dozens of old photographs, old letters, a tiny firefighter badge from his past, and most importantly, one single faded yellow envelope. Okay, this is the absolute turning point of the story. The crucial detail is what was inside that faded envelope. James immediately recognized the handwriting on the letter. It was from his father, who had passed away nearly 15 years earlier. It was a letter written right before his death that had been lost during a chaotic family move. His father wrote, "Life has given you another chance. Don't waste it. I am proud of the man you've become." James had spent years, literally years, wishing to hear those exact words one last time. And because of Cooper, he finally had. Part 4. The final goodbye and crossing the Rainbow Bridge. After finding the box, the sun began to set behind the mountains, and James and Cooper walked home for the last time. That evening, James made Cooper his absolute favorite dinner. He gently brushed his soft golden fur, placed his favorite blanket right beside the warm fireplace, and stayed close by his side all night long. Early the next morning, James woke to complete silence. He smiled at first, thinking his old friend was just sleeping in, but when he touched him, he realized the truth. Cooper had peacefully passed away during the night. There had been no fear, there had been no pain, only peace. Even in his final hours, that dog had been thinking about James, bringing him the closure he so desperately needed, rather than focusing on himself. A week later, the entire town of Cedar Ridge gathered beneath that very same oak tree by the lake. We're talking neighbors, firefighters, even the shelter volunteer from 13 years ago came out to pay their respects. James placed Cooper's blue collar down beside the tree, looked out at the crowd, and delivered this powerful realization. People think I rescued a puppy 13 years ago. The truth is, he spent 13 years rescuing me. And finally, Section 5, a legacy of hope and returning to the shelter. Fast forward a bit. Months passed and life slowly moved forward. But then, on one rainy afternoon, James inexplicably found himself walking right back into that exact same local animal shelter. The whole thing had come full circle. 13 years ago, a lonely, broken man found a quiet puppy. Today, a healed man meets a frightened puppy. Over in the far corner of the shelter, a golden retriever puppy sat all alone. James slowly knelt down, and just like Cooper did all those years ago, this little puppy walked forward and placed one tiny paw right on his hand. James just smiled and whispered, "I think someone sent you." When the shelter volunteers softly asked what he would name the new dog, James looked up and whispered the name Hope. He realized in that very moment that Cooper's absolute greatest gift wasn't the rusted box of old letters or the hidden memories by the lake. His greatest gift was teaching a broken man how to love again. Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. The source text concludes with this profound, beautiful idea: they simply leave behind enough love to guide us for the rest of our lives. I really want you to take that away with you today. Whether it's a person or an incredible animal, think about the relationships that have rescued you in your own life. What legacies of love have they left behind to guide your steps? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this amazing story today. And never, ever underestimate the power of a quiet bond.